This week's Extra Life on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by EXA. EXA brings the latest technology to gamers, offering the most immersive products for the ultimate gaming experience. They've compiled the best elements of cutting-edge ENC tech, the latest in Bluetooth 5.0 and 7.1 surround, plus extra features into their headsets so everyone can enjoy a sensational gaming experience. And they've got headsets for Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC. Plus, they won't break the bank. Learn more about the headsets that are available and any current promotions by going to f5live.tv/exa. Last week was an interesting one in the gaming world. We saw Starfield without a field of stars, depending on your video card. We saw the head of Fortnite leave the company, but the thing that was making the most noise and the most news was that Unity changed its pricing structure. Now, Unity is a gaming engine that is used for lots of games, including one that we have talked about since shortly before it launched, Pokemon Go. Cuphead, lots of stuff. Hearthstone are all, I think Hearthstone, are all built in Unity. And the way it has worked since the price change, the last price change, was that individual personal developers could use it for a free license, could have a free license. And then professional developers outside of an enterprise, so small teams, could pay a $400 per seat license. So if you've got 3 developers on a team, that's $1,200. And that's pretty much where it ended. Well, Unity decided that they wanted to make more on their development tools, and rather than just selling or giving away the development tools, there will now be a fee associated with usage and installs. They are calling it the Unity runtime fee, and basically the way it's going to work is once a project has 200,000 installs and has made $200,000 within a 12-month period, the project will be responsible for 20 cents per install. So if you've made $200,000 and have 200,000 installs, 40 of your 200K now has to go to Unity.
Is that going forward, or if you already have them installed?
A fair question. There have been questions around the detailed implementation of this. From what I can tell, based on these rules, and we'll talk about that qualifier in a moment, based on these rules, I think it's any future publish, and it will be retroactive.
What do you mean retroactive? You said any future.
So if you put out a new version of the game, Pokemon Go puts out a new publish, any installs on the project will then count.
So what if it's a free game? You're still gonna have to pay, right?
Correct.
So you can't make a free game because you're gonna lose money.
Correct. Or you have to have more in-game payment things. You've got to start making more per install. An ad-based free game, not going to work under these rules. Because what if you download the game, open it up, go, this isn't the right one, and uninstall it? Still costs 20 cents. And they never made a penny.
Well, I mean, I assume that, again, like you said about purchases, somebody who is doing this would have to model the math. Like, oh, okay, we're going to lose X amount, but then each subscriber, each user is worth X. So if each user is worth $1, that's an average. It includes people who are worth 0 and people who are worth $10. But nevertheless, it's still it's still you know, yeah, it's still definitely discouraging people. Now I hear the community has not reacted well to this.
Yeah. It's not usual that a subscription pricing model starts to trend on Twitter, but it definitely did in this case. Both gamers and developers slash publishers have responded very negatively to this. Everything from certain longtime Unity users and supporters in the development community saying, that's it, we're done. We're going to build our own engine, or we're going to look at Epic, or, Unreal, or, some other game engine. Which is, you know, we're making a business decision. Here's where we are going forward. There was some of that. And then Unity had to close 2 of its offices because of death threats. So people have responded in a very wide range of ways. Some rational, some irrational. And since this article was published, things have changed some. To get back to the qualifier from earlier, Unity has said they are reconsidering everything and to hold off on panicking because we don't know. So they may have listened to the community, heard what was said, and potentially made future decisions based on community reaction. We see this in games and entertainment a lot. I mean, we can go back recently to the scary Sonic the Hedgehog rendering from the first movie, or we can go back significantly further, where Sony saw the reaction that Microsoft got to their pricing model for the Xbox One, which was the exact same pricing model they were going to use for the PlayStation 4, and they changed it in the several hours between the end of Microsoft's press conference and the beginning of theirs. So the entertainment world is willing to listen to its user base. So it's possible that the fact that this got trending on Twitter may have actually had an impact. We will know.
But not Reddit.
Well, that's for sure. Talk about digging your heels in.
Right, because Reddit got this reminds me of what happened. I mean, this reminds me of what happened with Reddit, right? You had a lot of people closing the Reddits, and
Going dark.
the company seems to have won there, right? Because they didn't change their policy, and people have I think people have forgotten about it, right? I mean,
Mostly.
they
There's
had a
still
few weeks there.
there's still a lot of formerly public subreddits that are still private. And the reason that they did that is they wanted to screw up Google search results. They wanted people to click on Google search results and then essentially get a 401 error. You're not authorized to be here. Because they were hoping that, it would damage Reddit's credibility with Google, and PageRank would start to drop, and it didn't work. That didn't end up doing what they had hoped. So I think they backed off on it some, but there's a lot of those subreddits that are still what they called dark, or in this case private.
Yeah. So,
but they didn't get what they wanted. They didn't get the reversal, the Twitter style API charges is what that one was all about.
Right. So they're still doing the API charges.
Yep.
So the rebels didn't win. But on the other hand, you talk about something like Sonic the Hedgehog, they did. And when you talk about something, I mean, there's a few things
and
like that.
That one was expensive too. The Sonic thing was apparently incredibly expensive to go back and change the model and re-render the entire movie.
But I have to say that, like, I gotta side with. I mean, I can't. With the Unity thing, I don't really. know enough about the business model, and I certainly don't side with anybody being threatening to people at
Certainly.
all. But
Terrible.
so I don't. I think people are way overreacted. I think that this. I think though that this was a tool that people were really counting on, and that's definitely a problem. But these kind of things are almost inevitable to happen because like anyone who's worked in corporate culture, you know, there will be people who will say something like, who will be kind of the naysayers, right? They'll be like, hey, I really think our customers or our users or whatever aren't going to like this, or our employees or whoever. Like, I really think this is going to cause a stink. And then
Hmm.
there will be someone who's like more detached from the consequences, who will say something like, "Oh, come on, come on, this is good for business, you know, we don't need to worry about a couple of crybabies or something."
Hmm.
And I'm not. This hasn't exactly happened in my job, but I'm just saying, like, you see things where there are people who are at a certain level in a company, are probably like the people who they want to implement something, and in an organization they want to implement something, and then there'll be other people who be like, listen, I don't think this is going to go over well. And and they so I guarantee you that in all of these organizations there was somebody there or multiple people who are like, hey, I don't think the Sonic the Hedgehog look is going to go over well. And
Hmm.
there was somebody above them who was like, oh, come on, give me a break, don't be such a geek or
It's an 8
whatever.
bit game.
And
Everything's
then,
fine.
yeah, right. And so I guarantee you there was somebody there who's like, I told you so. And they were happy for the feedback. They were happy. They were happy for
Yeah.
the negative reaction. They were happy for the feedback because it backed them up. Like I I'll
True.
I'll never forget. I won't name names here, although it probably wouldn't matter if I did. But I'll never forget one time a few years ago, many years ago, I wrote a story about how a particular um, computer company had made a very a sexist commercial. They had made a video that was very, in my view, very demeaning to women. Um, it was a laptop commercial, but it showed a woman kind of, um, you know, doing like chasing after her boyfriend in ways that were like really. It was. I won't get into it, but it was in my opinion really negative portrayal. So I did an article where I mentioned it, and I thought that and that the company, when I next saw the people I knew at the company, they were going to be like mad at me. And a couple of them pulled me aside and they were like, "Thank you for writing that article, because we've been saying the same thing, that this was an embarrassing commercial." And then when other people saw your article, they were like, "Hey, this we can't be doing things like this anymore." So so you know sometimes sometimes a negative reaction from somebody outside of the decision making process is exactly what's needed to solve the situation. And like, I guarantee you that you know somebody could have predicted it, right? Somebody did predict it, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure there were people at there who were like, if you do this, people are gonna be really mad. And there was probably somebody who was like, but we need the money, and we'll deal with it. And they didn't realize how bad it was going, how negative the reaction was going to
Oh, I just have to say, a quick search for um, laptop commercial sexist returned some real doozies. Anyway,
There have been many. So I actually could be naming many as one of many companies, because although it's gotten like I think it's gotten better, but like when I first started at Laptop Mag back in the back in the day, I was started there in 2007. Now, there was some stuff. I mean, it was really, and I wasn't
Yeah.
the only. I don't want to make myself the hero here. Like that, I had a lot of women who worked with me who wrote much more about this than I did. But um, I remember there was one where like Dell had like a bunch of pink stuff, and they called it Della, and that was their like attempt to reach out to female this female customers. So like whatever, but like sometimes the negative reaction, whether it comes from
Yeah.
everyday users or the press, like is exactly what's needed to to fix these type of problems.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that somebody at the company is like, aha, now this has gone way over the top though, because there are people making threats, and that's not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's unacceptable. But I mean, just the idea that developers were saying we're done with the engine and things like that, that does seem to have pushed them. We'll see what the new version looks like when it comes out. We don't know exactly when that will be because they're certainly not going to move as quickly as Sony did with the PlayStation 4 pricing. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course, hit the notification bell because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.